everybody's doing well today. I want to show you guys how to make a headlight. Basically, this is a prop that I came up with a couple weeks ago. I was on YouTube, I was watching a clip, and I saw a wrestling clip, and in this wrestling clip, the wrestler came down to the ring with like a head on a lantern or a head lantern. I thought it was really cool, so I figured, well, why don't I make one for my props? And this type of thing where, as you saw in the intro, you can pop a light in, the light shines up the face, gives it a pretty cool look, type thing where if you have a driveway or something, you can have a couple of these on the ground as people are walking down, and they'll light up the face. You can hang it from, I have it one hanging from a haunted tree, which I really like the way that looks. You can have it hanging from posts. You can have them in a lot of different places. It's just like one of those nice, cool little accents that you can do to for your haunt. So I'm going to show you how to make one of those. And when I show you how to do this, I have another video called How to Horrify a Skull. I'm going to be using a lot of the same techniques that I do in that, with just a couple of small alterations. So if you've seen the other video, you'll probably see some stuff being repeated in this video. What we're going to do is we're going to take a skull like one of these, some 16 gauge annealed wire that you can get from Home Depot, some water weld epoxy, a couple eyeballs, which you can buy on Amazon from a place they're called Decora eyeballs, D-E-C-O-R-A, some Gorilla Glue. I would like the gel kind for this. A tea light, and I'll put where you can get these in the description below. And fake nails, which you can get from any store that you want to, like Walgreens, places like that. Okay. You also need a source of hair for this. What I do is I generally buy wigs or masks after Halloween. You can get it really cheap, and I just like cut it up. Also, you'll need some plastic tarp. This is 0.7 millimeter. You can get it from Home Depot, Harbor Freight, Walmart. They all have it. It's really cheap. And we're going to combine all those into this. Now, one of the things you want to do is first pick your skull. I will probably be using this skull, which I got from Home Depot. One of the things is you might want to make the jaw a little bit wider. Take a look in here. This light doesn't quite fit in there very well. However, this skull, which I took off this Costco skeleton, plenty of room to fit it in there. Still trying to decide which skull I'm going to use, and I'll decide that in the next minute before I start the rest of the video. Alright, so I decided to go with Home Depot skull. You can get these from Home Depot really cheap, especially after Halloween. They come like 3 in a bag. And first thing you're going to do is pop the jaw out. Now, on this one, I have the wide jaw. I think that gives it a nice freaky look. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this heat gun, I'm going to heat up the center, and I'm going to like basically widen the jaw. Now when it's heated up enough, I'll just spread it apart. You'll notice I have a bottle of water over there. What I'm going to do is once I get it to where I want it, I'm going to hit the hot part with the water. It's going to cool down nice and fast. And help it take its shape right away. Okay. And you'll see the jaw is wider. Alright, so that's the first thing. Okay, now that I have the jaw in the shape that I want it, I'm not going to be using these to put it back into the skull. So I'm just going to take a pair of clips, wire cutters, cut them off. I got rid of those pegs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole into each of these right up here. Now, it doesn't have to be an exact spot, just a general area. Make sure you don't drill through into your finger. Got one there. Do the other side over here. And I've got 2 holes. Now I'm going to take the 16 gauge wire, unwrap it. Not sure exactly how much I'm going to use, so I'm going to make sure I cut off more than I probably need. Take the wire cutters, cut the wire. And what I'm going to be doing, so I'm going to be cutting this in half, so I have two pieces of this. Putting one through the one side of the jaw, the other through the other side of the jaw. Now I'm going to be threading the other end of the wire through these holes on the skull. And I'm going to create a new jawline for the skull. Just don't take it, fold it, cut it in half, use the wire cutters again. And then, one of the things I have in my other video on how to do this, on my horrifying skulls, I thread the wire through those holes, and then I use like super glue and stuff. I've actually learned since then, doing the super glue is not really needed. Put this through here. Maybe get an inch or so through. Wrap it around. Just get a pair of pliers. And press that in really, really tight into the plastic. And that actually gives you the stability that you need to put the jaw in. If you want to, you can wrap it around one more time. Give yourself that extra stability. Take a pair of pliers. Apply a lot of pressure. Pressing that wire into the plastic. And it'll be nice and stable. Do the same thing to the other side. All right, I'm about to thread this wire through the skull, through those holes. Now, one of the things I like to do, you don't have to do this, but it'll probably make your life a lot easier. Some skulls have a hole in the bottom, like if it was connected to a skeleton. Since I got these from Home Depot, these were freestanding skulls, they don't have the hole in the bottom. I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom so that I can actually watch where I'm threading things. It'll make things easier. We're going to be plastic corpsing this a little bit later, so the holes don't get covered up, so it doesn't matter if the hole's there. Just take, drill. Got your hole, nice and easy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread these through the skull. Now I want to make sure that this has enough room where I can have this coming down and out, because one of the things I'm going to want the light to do later on, I'm going to want the light to shine up onto the face. So I got to position the skull in a manner that does so. So I want to make sure that there's enough wire that I can play around with and figure out the perfect position that I want. When you thread this through, straighter the wires are, the easier it will be. I'll take this, put it through the one side. And because I have that hole in the bottom, nice and easy to get through. And if I decide that this is too long, I can shorten it up by pulling it through further. Now I'm going to take this, thread it through this side. And once again, because I have the hole in the bottom, it was nice and easy to set up. Now, it's the type of thing where I probably want this a little bit shorter. So I'm pulling that, pull that through, get it to about the length that I want it to be. And then here you have a couple different options. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to wrap this around this wire a couple times. Take a pair of wire cutters. Cut it off. You should probably wear goggles when you do this because you don't want stuff flying into your eyes. Better late than never. I'll do the same thing on this side over here. And it's something that if I don't like the length or of the jaw, I can adjust it again a little bit later on. Got that around there. Cut this, hold onto it. And now I have the hardware in place so that I can make this jaw whatever shape I want to. Take a look at this one. You can see I have the wires. They're coming down to the front. I got the jaw out front there. And when I put the light in, because the jaw is protruding, still have the light flashing up onto the face, and you'll be able to see the eyes and features of the face at night. All right, so I shaped the wire that I wanted it, kind of have it coming down, have it set up so that the jaw is out in front of the upper skull. Now what I have to do is I have to get this wire to stay in place. And the way I do that is I take this water weld epoxy. It's like a putty epoxy. Get it from Home Depot. And you're not using the whole stick. Just use like maybe an inch or so of it. Make sure you wrap the old stuff up, put it away so that you can use it again in the future. And all you do is start rolling it around. I think it's the epoxy's on the outside, the hardener's on the inside. So when you start mixing around, they both mix together. Helps to wear gloves when you do this. Get it nice and mixed up. Then split it in half. Figure out exactly where you want your skull here. Take half the epoxy, put it on one side of the skull, press it in. If there are any bumps, any ridges or anything like that, fit it in there, get it up and around the wire so that when it hardens, it gives you a nice firm base. Do that on the one side. Do the same thing on the other side. Get it up in there. Get it conforming to any grooves, any bumps or anything like that. Get it around the wire. Once you have it pretty well in there, do one last check. Make sure that you have the jaw where you want it. Push the putty in case it came loose when you moved it around. And this is the way I want it now. I got it where I want it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this aside for about an hour or two. Come back to it later on. We'll pick up and I'll show you how to continue doing this prop. Okay, this is hardened now. Now if you're looking for something to do while you're waiting for this to harden, if you don't have anything else you want to be working on the project, one of the things you can do is you can get the fake nails and you can turn the fake nails into teeth, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. I didn't do that because I had other stuff to do, but it's one of the things that you can do to kill time that's project related. Now, the key thing is you can still adjust where you have the lower jaw in conjunction to the upper jaw. The wire is pretty flexible. It's like sturdy enough that it keeps it in place, but you can still move it around. Main thing is you want to make sure that the lower jaw is in front of the skull and in front of the eyes. So when the light shines up, it illuminates all the features up here. Now, what we're going to be doing next, we're going to be doing a process called plastic corpsing. Something I first saw in a Stilt Beast Studio video years ago. I use it as the basis of a lot of my different props. What we're going to be doing is getting plastic painter's tarp. This is 0.7 millimeters. Get it from Harbor Freight. Get it from Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's. All those places have it. We're going to be spraying the skull and the jaw with an adhesive. I use the 3M Super 77, but you got lots of different adhesives out there. I'm going to spray it on there. I'm going to wrap the skull in the plastic. And when I wrap this, I oftentimes do it different ways, but for this project, I'm going to be trying to create an area down here that's going to hold the light. So I'm going to focus on making sure that there's a little area down here, and I'm going to have it covering the face and other things. Now I'm going to hit it with a heat gun. After I hit it with the heat gun, I'm going to shape the eyes, I'm going to shape the mouth to where I want it. Now, one of the things you could do if you wanted to, we're going to be putting longer teeth on this in a little bit. I like to do it after I do the plastic corpsing because you have to, like you do it before, and it's actually easier to fit things into place before. Problem is, if you hit the nails with the heat gun, they shrivel up real fast, and that kind of ruins everything. So I tend to wait till after I'm done the project before putting the teeth on. Now we're going to be wrapping the plastic tarp and doing the plastic corpsing. Plastic is about 18 inches, 24 inches, probably about 2 feet wide. And what I'm going to do is spray this and just wrap it around. Now I've got the mask here. I'm going to be using the adhesive spray, and you don't want to be breathing that in. You don't want that stuff in your lungs, so it's just kind of like a safety precaution. When you do this, make sure you do it on cardboard or some sort of a surface that you don't mind getting spray on. This stuff does make things really sticky. If you do it straight on the table, it's going to make the table real sticky, and it's hard to get rid of that. While I'm doing this, I'm making sure that there's an area here where I press down. And this is where I'm going to be putting the light later on that's going to light everything up. I want to have an area that I can rest on. Now, as I heat this up, it's going to actually make the plastic hard. And when it makes plastic hard, it's going to give it a solid place to sit. Now I find that when I do a lot of different layers and everything, get a lot more bumps in here. Those are the type of things that once you stain this and highlight it and everything, kind of gives it a lot more character. I'm going to be stretching this out wide. I'm going to be opening up the area where the mouth goes here. When I do that, I'm going to be able to see the wires coming down. All you have to do is take a piece of plastic, stick it in there, cover up the wires, and you got a patch like built right in there. It's up to you how much definition you want to give it, how much plastic you want to give it. I try to get a couple of different layers going because that gets more bumps and everything. That kind of gives it like the more character. I think it looks better, but that's up to you. Okay, when you're shaping the mouth, you could do it a couple different ways. You can just keep hitting it with the heat gun and shriveling it up to where you want to do. And that can cause some pretty cool stuff to go on. Or you can just take a pair of scissors, cut a little bit out, and then hit it with the heat gun to shrink it back more into shape. Now obviously when you do something like this, you want to try to do it in a well ventilated area. Now I'm in a garage, but I got a door open there, I got a window open over there, got a cross breeze going, I got the fan on. So I have this cut. I'm going to hit this with the heat gun. I'm going to kind of shape it and shrink it down so it's down and up around the teeth up there. Peel it back, kind of gives almost like it looks like it has lips and a scowl if you want. Now one of the things you want to do, make sure it's loose right here so that you can fit the teeth into there when we put the teeth in. Now I kind of melted through here a little bit. I don't like that. I want to fix that up a little bit, so I'm going to get another couple pieces of plastic, put them under here, and do a patch. All right, so I have the mouth cut out the way I wanted it. You'll see I can take the light in here. I can fit the light, fits in there perfectly. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to have long teeth to help kind of obscure that light a little bit. And it'll shine up, and it should light up the entire face. So I got this pretty much the way I wanted it to. I had a hole in there. What I did was put my fingers through there, got a couple pieces. I was pressing down over here while melting the plastic on to create the little shelf that this is sitting on. Next, I'm going to get a couple pieces of plastic. I'm going to put one over there, cover up that wire, put one over here to cover up that wire, and hide them up a little bit. All right, so you can see that wire's in there. I sprayed a little bit of adhesive in. All I'm doing is taking the plastic, jamming it in there, making sure that it's covering up the metal. See, it's covering up the metal. Now I hit it with the heat gun. When I stain it, that'll cover up the plastic and it'll look good. All right, I've got the mouth pretty much the way I want it to be. What I'm going to work on next is I'm going to work on the eyes. Now, the eyes are a very important part anytime you do a project like this. You know, it's like the expression that you have going. I tend to go for like more of a evil or angry type look when I do this stuff. But I've also done things where, you know, they have a look of surprise, fear, things like that on their face. What I'm going to show you today is how to get like that look of anger on there, kind of like this guy has going a little bit. The way we do this is I'm going to heat up the eyes, and I'm going to take something that I can shape it with, and I'm going to start here. I'm going to do like a triangle up to there, down to there, triangle from there, down to there, and then I'm going to add some wrap. I'm going to like spray an adhesive, get it nice and rounded like this. I'm going to add it on here as a brow, and that brow and the eyes will give us an angry or evil type look. So, get the heat gun here, move this out of the way. And once again, this type of thing, if you screw it up, it's no big deal. Get a piece of plastic, a little adhesive, spray it, put it on there, redo it. Not a problem at all. And in fact, it creates extra layers of plastic, which can be a pretty good thing. So I'm stretching that back there. Now for this, that's a little wider than I wanted it. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of plastic, spray this. That on there. Get this off my hands. I'm starting to get more of the look I want. It's a little bit more going into that narrow angle. And then I'll do the same thing with the other eyes. And then I'm going to put the brows in there. And you can see almost like how it's getting that brow look right there. So I'm shaping the eyes. I'm going to put like some brows on here. And I personally think that when you're making something like this, the brows and the eyes are what make or break the entire thing. You know, you can give it a lot of different expressions, its own personality and everything. And it's not a bad thing to spend a little time with it. You can build stuff up. You know, you can use the plastic as almost like a clay, I guess you could say. What I'm going to do right now is I'm still hit it with a little bit of spray, not much. I'm going to roll it up. Okay. And I already got a little bit of the brow going. I'm going to add a little bit more just because I think it will look cool. I'm going to spray where I put it. Building it out a little bit. Play with the heat gun. Try to make it look more like it's part of what's in there. If you want to do more shaping, you can. Just be very careful. Don't want to burn yourself. And when I stain this, it's going to look a little bit better, a little more cohesive, and so forth. That guy's got a nose. This guy won't have a nose. It'll be more of a flat, straight up thing. Although if I wanted him to have a nose or something, get a little bit of rolled up stuff, plastic, put it on there, to do that. I'm going to give it a try. You know, it's like, I don't want everyone to look exactly the same. I want there to be some variations. And one of the things I'll do is, if I make more of these, I will give them different expressions. I will give some a surprise expression, fearful expression, in pain expression. I'll do all different types of things, just to give each one their own personality. Where I don't have to add teeth, where I don't have to add the eyeballs. If you want to have eyeballs, I mean, you don't have to. One of the things I always have trouble deciding is whether it looks better with eyeballs or without. I always think it looks more evil without the eyeballs, but I think the eyes give it more personality. And I'm going to do these after I stain this. Now, when you do this, I'm going to be using a gel stain. I normally use a hickory colored gel stain, but for this I'm going to use a black or an ebony gel stain, just to try something different, see how it looks. And that's one of the things, whenever you're doing stuff like this, experiment. It's the only way that you learn what works and what doesn't work. Inside on the skull itself, since that's kind of hard to get in there with the paintbrush the way I want to. And since it's a skull, I'm probably just gonna hit that with a little bit of spray paint. Or what I actually have here is Rust-Oleum undercoating that you can use for truck beds and stuff like this. This is a little bit thicker than regular paint. I'm just gonna spray a little bit on here. The reason you use gel stain instead of spray paint or regular stain is that oftentimes with plastic flexes sometimes, and as it flexes, spray paint will start to chip off after a bit. Regular gel stain takes forever to dry or set up. If it does set up, regular stain, gel stain works well. So let's take this, spray inside the mouth a little bit here. Don't need to do a lot. Once again, don't do this more towards out here. Now I'm hitting this with the spray. Once I hit it with this, I found that I can use acrylic paints to highlight stuff, and it works pretty well. I'll probably stain over some of this area. The main area I wanted to get was under here and give it the black dark color. And I might even hit parts of this with a red spray paint. If you use spray paint in small areas, I found in general, it's not that bad. It's when you start using a larger area that you start getting the chipping and having problems. Okay, so I've got this in here. Now I'm going to take the stain, and I'm just going to stain the whole thing black. You want to make sure you don't get it on the teeth. That's the only area you really need to be careful about right now. Anything else you can fix up pretty easily. If you get any paint on the teeth, all you have to do is get a rag, spray a little bit of brake cleaner or some other solvent on it, wipe it down, and you'll be able to get any paint off of areas that you don't want. So basically all I'm going to be doing is taking brushing this whole thing up. Obviously you want to wear gloves when you do this. Do it in an area where if there's any splatter or anything like that, it's not going to mess up anything you want to mess up. Sometimes when you're doing it, stuff splatters. If you get any stain on the teeth right away, wipe it off right away, you should be fine as long as it doesn't dry on the teeth. And actually, now I'm sitting here talking about the teeth and everything, we're going to be covering these teeth up a little bit later. The less stain and other things they have on them, the easier it will be to adhere the teeth to those different areas. All we're doing right now is applying the base coat. Lay it on as thick as you want. If you want the backgrounds of the eyes to be black, you can hit it the inside there was a little spray paint, or hit it with the stain. You want to get as many areas as you can. Any little touching up and stuff that you want to do, you can always do later. Now I'm doing this on a nice day. What I'll be doing is I'll be putting it out in the sun. That'll help it dry a little bit. I'm also going to hit it with the, I'll probably wipe a little bit of this off. I'll be hitting it with the heat gun. Try to get this dry faster. It can take a while to dry under bad conditions. You know, if it's wet out, rainy out and everything, it can take a couple days to actually dry. I'm hoping that with the weather that we currently have, and by wiping off the heavier stuff and hitting with the heat gun, putting it outside, I'm hoping this will be dry and ready to go by tomorrow. Might not, we'll see. Some things you just can't control. If you get a little stain on your hands, you can wipe it off. If it's still a little bit on after try wiping it off, just put a little bit of the brake cleaner or some solvent on the rag, hit it real fast, and that should clean things up pretty fast for you. So I'm just going to pat this down. patting it down. If you see an area you missed, and just put a little bit, move a little bit of the stain into the areas that you missed. Once again, taking off the old gloves, putting on new gloves, because I'm going to be handling the heat gun. And if any stain that's on my gloves will get on the heat gun, and it gets sticky, and then you have to take time to clean off the heat gun later on. Not to mention, when you get the stain on the heat gun, then you get it on your hands, put it down, touch other places, and it starts spraying stain all over the place. When you do this, plastic might shrink a little bit more. That's not a bad thing. Might solidify a little more. Once again, not a bad thing. You don't want to burn holes in here unless you're going for that type of a look. Basically, just keep it moving, and the idea is just to dry the stain up a little bit and speed up the process of drying. Make sure you got the lip there and all. You do want to get underneath it. See an area or two under here when I get a little more of this stain. Sometimes when you hit it with the heat gun, the plastic shrinks a little bit and it pulls back and it'll expose areas that weren't hit with the stain. So you just want to like make sure you touch those up later on. As most of the props I do the tutorials for, now I'm not saying that my way is the only way or even the best way to do it. I'm just trying to give people an idea of things that they can do, and then people can take those ideas, use them as they see fit. Be as creative as you want to be. You can always touch up areas a little bit later on, no problem. Once again, you want to try to dry up inside too, because when we're doing stuff later on, if there's wet stain in there, it's easy to get on your hands and transfer to other surfaces, and we'd like to try to avoid that if possible. I normally use a hickory stain, but sometimes you gotta experiment, see what works for you, see what works, what doesn't work, what you like, what you don't like. All right, for the next part, we're gonna be doing the teeth. And the teeth are fake nails. I just take a pair of scissors and I snip down to the size and shape that I want to use. Depending upon how, like for this, my wife picked up the nails for me. She got the longer ones, so you can actually cut these in half and make 2 teeth out of them if you go with shorter teeth. Or if you want to do something like this guy up here, you can see these teeth are longer. These are just like each one is a single nail. Now, right now the other one I'm doing is out there, is out in the driveway, so I can't really use it right now. So I grabbed another skull. It's the same type of skull. And I'm going to be using this to judge how long I want the teeth. When I do this, now I'm trying to trim these down this way a little bit, make them a little thinner. And I'll probably come off about 1/4 of an inch or so off the teeth. And basically just having this here gives me a little bit of a guide to give me an idea how long I want to make the teeth. When I cut the teeth, very simple. When I use the longer nails, the first thing I do is kind of flatten them out a little bit. Break down the structure. And like I said, I want to make this thinner. And then it's up to you to decide how you want to do the teeth. You can do them where it's long and sharp, like this guy up here, where I try to make it look like the teeth were kind of going between the upper teeth were going between the lower teeth, and the lower teeth were going between the upper teeth. Or you can make it a little more short, the points a little bit more, starting towards the top. And I think that's what I'm going to do for this one. And it's one of those things, you know, experiment, play around, see what you like. If you don't like something, make more. So I'll get it, I'll put it on there. When I put the teeth in there, yeah, this guy's gonna have longer teeth, I think. When you put the teeth in there, you use Gorilla. Well, I use Gorilla Super Glue Gel. I like the gel. I think I have a little more control with the gel. Allows me to work a little bit better and easier with it. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to plan out the different teeth and everything. And then once that thing's dry, I'll take the gel, I'll put them into that tooth over there. It's been about 20 hours or so far, and it is still a little bit wet. The stain does take a while to really dry to where you can handle it comfortably. What I did is I took a little bit of this gloss cherry red spray paint. I sprayed it in the mouth. Just give the mouth a little bit of a bloody, icky type look. Add a little character to that. I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I start putting the teeth in. I have pre-cut the teeth, so when I'm ready to do the teeth, I'll be able to put them in. Another thing I want to do real fast is the eyes. I'm going to be putting eyes into this. I think for a prop like this, the eyes are really help making it. With the eyes, you can put them in just white and they show up fine. But I also sometimes like to give them like a bloody or almost like bloodshot type look. I don't do much, but it's like a pretty simple process. Just get a little bit of red paint. I mix the red with a little bit of black. I just wipe it onto the eyeball, the whites. If a little bit gets on the blue, no problem. You're gonna be wiping it off anyway. Okay. So got the red all on there. Just take a paper towel, grab it. And I go from top to the bottom. I try not to wipe it all off. I try to leave little streaks of the red and all. What I'm trying to do is just give it a bloodshot eye look. Yeah, I got a little bit on the blue, so I want to wipe that off. It's something, if you get it on there, you notice it later on, that you got some blue on there, like some paint on the blue, or some paint somewhere you don't want it and it's dried. All you have to do is take a solvent like brake cleaner, put a little bit on a towel like this, do a little wipe, and it will come off. Now if you take a look at this, now it's just a quick way to give your eyeball a quick bloodshot look to it. All right, so I'm going to start on the teeth in a couple minutes. Now, in the eyes here, for some reason the skull, and I've noticed this on a lot of different skulls, sometimes one socket might not be in the same exact shape as the other socket. It might not be as deep or deeper. This one was significantly deeper than this one. And for this prop, I want the eyeballs to be more towards the front so they get lit up by the light. So I put a little bit of clay in there. The clay will harden, I'll paint it black. I should be able to put the eyeball right on there and it won't be noticeable. So if you notice something like that, a little bit of filler, paint it black, and you should be good. Now, this is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to try to be careful with it and get as much done as I can. If I get a little stain on the teeth as I'm doing this, I'll just use a rag with some brake cleaner on it, clean them off after I'm done. But I do want to try to get this done today. And when you put the teeth on, it's very, very simple. Make sure you have glue. I use the gel glue. And my teeth. And I just kind of line, like I already have my teeth mostly pre-cut. Put it on there, figure out about how much I want to cut it down. Just a tiny bit on this front tooth here. Put it in there again. It's about what I'm looking for. Get a little bit of stain on here. I mean, sorry, some glue on here. Put the glue on the tooth. Stick this on here. Hold it on for a couple seconds. It'll adhere by itself. Maybe add a little pressure with something else. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure you don't get the glue on your gloves or your hands or stuff. Start pulling everything apart. You want to be careful about that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do each tooth on the top, on the bottom, and that'll give me the toothy look I'm looking for. Alright, so I got the teeth in. The eyes, the clay, I put some black acrylic paint on it. Looks good. Actually, I think I'll be using this in the future because I've had that problem with eyes before where one eye is a different size than the other one. I'm always sitting there messing around with it. Putting a little clay in there evens it up really easy and really fast. Now what I want to do next is I want to make some gums for this so it doesn't look like quite as like disjointed. So I'm taking this paint I have, it's basically red paint mixed with black paint. And I'm hitting the gum line and the top of the teeth with this. Doesn't have to be a lot, make the gums go down as far as you want. So it gives it a little bit more of a cohesiveness going from the skin into the teeth. I'll do the same thing at the bottom. And if you get a little bit too much paint on, as I keep saying, a little bit of brake clean solvent on a rag, and it'll wipe up that paint no problem. So this is giving me the gum line. I'm going to be putting eyes in. I need to put a handle for the head to make it the head lantern in. Highlight some of the different high spots, and then we're done. All right, so next we're going to put the eyes in. This is pretty easy also. I've already gave them a bloodshot look to them. You're going to put them in. And the main thing is just figuring out what position you want them. Now I kind of like them in a little bit close, right about there. I kind of like them looking straight out, but you might have a different position that you like them. Once you get it in there, get a little bit of the gel super glue. Get it towards the back of the eye to connect with the skull. Get it all the way around. This will give you a good seal. Now the thing is, the way the super glue is, it keeps it in there really well, but let's say later on you decide you don't like it or something, it's still easy enough to pull out even with super glue on it. Alright, next thing I'm going to be doing is some dry brushing. Now dry brushing, you might want to do before you put the eyeballs in because you're going to be doing some touching up around the eyes and everything, and you might hit the eyeballs and get a little paint on the eyeballs. It's up to you, it depends how sturdy your hand is. Now when you dry brush, basically what you're trying to do is you've got all these wrinkles, all these protrusions on here, and you're trying to make them pop. This is a technique I first saw in a Still Beat Studios video, and it really does make any prop you're doing really, really pop. What you're going to do is you're going to get a paint. Now there's two different color paints. For this, I've got a yellow, green, gray, and white. I'm probably going to go with either gray or white. I don't think the yellow or the green is what I'm looking for on this one. And I think on this one I'm actually going to go gray. So, taking out the gray. And get some cardboard that I can dab this on. is, all you do is just get a little bit on the very edges. Whenever I start something like this, I always like to do on the back to get my hand steady and figure out exactly what I'm doing and how it looks. Basically what you're doing is you're trying to lightly hit the bumps and everything, and you're just trying to get the bumps to start showing up. Like I said, I do on the back of the head, that way if I screw anything up at first, it's easy to fix and nobody's don't really see it anyway. And then I start moving to the front. I'm gonna highlight the eyebrows, all these different ridges. And this is one of the things where when you make this, the more wrinkles and crinkles that you have in it, the better, because they really pop when you do the dry brush. So the next thing we're gonna be doing, putting a handle on that. What I'll be using is I'll be using the same wire that we used for the jaws. I'll be unwrapping a length, cutting it off. Again, I prefer it to be too big as opposed to too small. I can always make adjustments later on. Basically, the idea is I'll put it on here into the skull and hook it into the skull. Now to do that, we're going to need to cut holes. You might have to do a little playing around with this to figure out what the perfect balance is. On the last one, I found the balance was better nearer towards the front. The idea is to give myself an area where I can easily insert a handle. Now, the key thing about this is when you're using a drill bit, you want to use it maybe a tiny, tiny, tiny bit smaller than this to make it a little more firm, where you have to push it in. When you do it, make sure it's cleared out. You don't want to be grabbing onto the skin, because that could cause problems. Make sure that the plastic's pulled away. This is something you can touch up later on with a little bit of paint if you want to. When we put on hair, the hair will cover it up a little bit. Basically, take it, put it on there. Nice and quick like that. Pull it out. Poke that in on that side. Now, like I said, you can have lower, you can have a higher. Then we're going to do the same thing on this side over here. I did put a hole earlier, but I lost track where the hole is, so I'm still making, is that it right up there? No. I'm going to make a new hole right here. Tiny incision, just enough to expose a little bit of the skull. You don't want to do too much. Pull it out. Poke this in there. Now this is something where if you want to make that shorter, you can easily make shorter. Just pull it out, cut it. And when I put it back in again, I'm going to bend the edges up a little bit so it doesn't like come out easily. And we're almost there. You'll notice I did do the dry brushing. The dry brushing brings out a lot of those lines and everything in there. Last thing we need to do is add a little bit of hair. All right, so you can see I got it on there and everything. It's hanging pretty much the way I want it to. I actually do want to hang it up just a little bit where I'm going to put the light in this spot right here. I want the light shining back and illuminating the entire face. So I think I got pretty good balance there. I got it pretty much where I wanted to on the first try. The thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add hair to this. I do this in a very low-tech, easy way. There may be other ways that are a lot easier, or I mean a lot better, or a lot that might look better. What I do works for me. When you choose a hair color, you want to choose a hair color I think that will contrast with the face. If I used a much lighter stain for this, I might go with like a darker hair, black hair, or something like this. However, because I went with the black for the face, I'm going with gray hair. I've got this old wig that I bought. Like I said, very low tech the way I do this. Now it's up to you if you want to take the handles out or not. I'm leaving the handles in because once you put the hair on, it's kind of hard to find the holes that you already made. And the way I do this, I get some 3M adhesive, spray it on the head. I said nothing high tech about this. Give it a minute or so to get tacky. While it's getting tacky, I'm like dividing up the hair, figuring out where I want it and all. And I'm going to be putting the hair right on top of it, kind of pressing and holding it there. In a minute or two, it'll be the way I want it, and be pretty much done. So I got hair for that side, hair for this side. Now if you want to give them a part in the middle, you give a part in the middle. You can just throw it wherever. So do the same for the other side. This is where you might want to pull the handle up a little bit so you can get it on both sides of the handle. I'll spray it one more time. I might cut a little more hair and put it on that side of the handle also. But literally, this is all I really do for it. Hold it there, press it down, and the glue keeps it on. Looks very stringy. One of the things you can do if you want to give it a more wet look, you can get like a gloss spray paint and spray paint it. It might give it, like I've done it with black hair before, and it gives a nice shiny wet look. Or you can go with the drier look that this currently has. Alright, so I've completed the second headlight. It's the one over here on the right hand side with the blue light on it. And overall, I'm pretty pleased with it. I think that if I were to change one thing, I made the eyes bloodshot. I don't think I would have made the eyes bloodshot because I think the white around the eyes gets lit up better by the light itself. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with this, and I'll probably go back, take out the eyes, clean off that red, and make them white. But that's how you make a headlight. It's very similar to how to horrify a skull. Main difference is that when you build the jaw comes out a lot more. That way you can put these little tea lights, and I'll put a link to the tea lights in the description. And basically the cool thing about the tea lights is you can make them different colors with the push of a button. These are small. I originally was using much larger lights for this one. I had to actually do a little extra modifications so that I'd be able to sit it in there. These tea lights are smaller, they fit in easier. If you make the teeth right, you can't even see the tea lights from the front. Now, I'm gonna have these hanging from demonic trees that I made, but you can do a lot of other things with them. Or this is how you make a headlight.